This land gets under your skin the moment you arrive. There's a feeling in the air, an invisible current that seems to hum beneath your feet, as if the ground itself remembers every step that's ever been taken here. It's not just the heat or the dust, it's the weight of history pressing from every direction. The stones themselves seem to carry the memories of empires, prophets, and ordinary people who have lived and died on this soil. Every stone, every olive tree, every grain of sand whispers a story layered over millennia. The landscape is a living archive, holding secrets and legends, joys and sorrows, all waiting to be discovered by those who listen closely. Jerusalem, the Galilee, the coast, loved, fought over, and prayed for by more people than almost anywhere else. These places are not just names on a map, but crossroads of faith, ambition, and longing, where the past and present are always in conversation. It's the heart of three great religions, a spiritual epicenter that draws people from across the globe. Pilgrims come seeking answers, connection, or simply to walk in the footsteps of those who shaped their beliefs. But this isn't a museum. It's a living, breathing, and often bleeding place. Life pulses through its markets and alleyways, where laughter and grief echo side by side, and the present is as vivid as the past. The stories aren't all in the past. They're being written now, in headlines, at checkpoints, in children's laughter amid ruins. Every day, new chapters unfold, some hopeful, some heartbreaking, woven into the fabric of daily life. For Israelis, it's a sanctuary built from the ashes of horror, a promise of safety and sovereignty. The memory of exile and persecution shapes a fierce determination to endure, to celebrate life, and to protect what has been reclaimed. For Palestinians, it's ancestral land, a story of loss and resilience, a demand for justice and freedom. The longing for return and the struggle to hold on to identity are etched into daily rituals and family stories. These truths exist side by side, woven into the landscape. The names of towns, the songs, the keys to lost homes. The music, the language, and the memories all intertwine, creating a tapestry that is both beautiful and fraught. To travel here is to walk into a collision of narratives, to see sunsets over balconies holding vastly different hopes. Each view, each conversation, reveals another layer of complexity, another perspective on what it means to belong. There are no simple answers, only deeply human questions. In the end, it's the people, their dreams and their pain, that give this land its true weight and meaning. Here, history isn't just studied, it's a weapon, a wound, a justification. The modern conflict's roots stretch back to empires and promises, but for many, it begins in 1948. Israel's independence, the Palestinian Nakba. One people's nationhood became another's catastrophe, scattering families and creating a refugee crisis that endures. The lines drawn since, wars, occupation, walls, aren't abstractions, they dictate daily life. Checkpoints, permits, and barriers fracture the landscape and lives. Villages erased, names changed, new settlements rise as reminders of shifting power. It's not just territory, it's about erasure and imposition of stories. For Palestinians, a trip to the beach is a distant dream. For Israelis, Palestinian cities are off-limits. Borders are internalized, realities shaped by ID cards and birthplace. People live parallel lives, their worlds rarely intersecting. On October 7, 2023, the conflict erupted. Hamas fighters breached Gaza's border, attacking southern Israel, killing over 1,000, taking hundreds hostage. The shock shattered Israel's sense of security, plunging the nation into trauma. Israel's response: war on Hamas, massive airstrikes, ground invasion, and siege of Gaza. For Gaza's 2.3 million, there was nowhere to run. The stated goal: destroy Hamas. The reality: neighborhoods obliterated, cityscapes reduced to rubble. By mid-2025, tens of thousands of Palestinians killed, many women and children. Nearly every family in Gaza has lost someone. In Israel, the pain of hostages remains raw. Once vibrant places, Gaza's markets, Israel's kibbutzim, are now scenes of devastation. The possibility of connection has been buried under violence and fear. The chasm between peoples has become an abyss. Imagine your world shrinking to a tent in a sea of mud surrounded by desperation. Nearly 2 million Gazans have been displaced, forced into overcrowded shelters with no privacy or safety. Life is a daily struggle for survival. Food catastrophically scarce, famine a reality. Mothers share scraps of bread, children die from malnutrition and dehydration. The systems that sustain life, Bakeries, farms, water are destroyed. Hospitals, already fragile, have collapsed. Many are bombed or besieged. Doctors operate on floors without anesthesia, by phone light. Over half of Gaza's hospitals are non-functional. The sick and injured have nowhere to go. Disease spreads in overcrowded shelters, compounding the crisis. Children endure relentless trauma, witnessing death, destruction, and terror. Many are orphaned, their futures stolen. The psychological scars will last a lifetime. Behind the statistics are stories that break the heart. Eman, a mother of 8, now lives in a tent, her days consumed by the search for food and water. Her struggle is shared by hundreds of thousands of mothers in Gaza. Ghazal, a 15-year-old with cerebral palsy, was nearly left behind as her family fled bombardment, her wheelchair lost in the rubble. These are the quiet, desperate battles for dignity and survival. On the other side, Israeli families of hostages live in agony, their lives frozen by uncertainty. They plead for the return of loved ones, enduring a different kind of torment. Aid workers face impossible choices, deciding who receives the last medical supplies. These personal accounts aren't about sides, they're about shared humanity. Bearing witness to these voices is essential. A place is more than its people. It's its landmarks, sacred spaces, and culture. These stones and streets hold the stories of generations, echoing with prayers, laughter, and the footsteps of those who came before. Heritage is woven into the very fabric of daily life, shaping identity and belonging. In this war, Gaza's physical landscape has been erased. Mosques, churches, ancient sites destroyed. The skyline, once dotted with minarets and domes, is now a silhouette of broken stone and dust. The loss is not just architectural, but deeply personal for those who called these places home. The Great Omari Mosque and the Church of St. Porphyrius, centuries old, now lie in ruins. These were not just buildings, but living witnesses to history. Spaces where faith and community thrived for hundreds of years, now reduced to rubble. This is not just collateral damage, it's the destruction of identity and memory. Each shattered artifact, each broken wall, is a piece of collective history lost forever, leaving wounds that may never fully heal. For Palestinians, it's the loss of places where generations prayed, married, and remembered. These sites were the backdrop to life's milestones, the anchors of family and tradition, now gone or forever changed. The war seeks to demolish not just lives, but culture. Libraries, museums, and community centers, repositories of art, music, and knowledge, are left in ruins, erasing the creative spirit of a people. In the West Bank, settler violence and land confiscation uproot ancient olive groves, symbols of rootedness and survival. These trees, some centuries old, are more than crops. They are living links to ancestry and resilience, now threatened with extinction. For travelers, the guidebooks are now out of date. Many sites may never return. The vibrant destinations that once drew visitors from around the world now stand silent, their stories interrupted. The opportunity to connect with Gaza's rich culture is indefinitely postponed. The crafts, music, and traditions that once flourished behind these doors are now at risk of being forgotten. What remains is a landscape of ghosts, defined by loss. Streets once filled with life are now empty, echoing with memories of what was. The future of travel here is uncertain, clouded by destruction. Yet the longing for return and the hope for restoration persist, even as the fate of heritage and home hangs in the balance. As the crisis deepened, the world's institutions were tested, and often failed. The UN called for ceasefires but was ignored. Aid convoys sat at borders, unable to reach the starving. In 2024, the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to prevent genocide and allow aid. The International Criminal Court sought arrest warrants for leaders on both sides. Yet, on the ground, suffering continued. Israel's ban on UNRWA, the main aid agency, threatened to sever Gaza's last lifeline. The gap between international consensus and political will was stark. The U.S., Israel's main ally, sent military aid while calling for more humanitarian help, a contradiction that drew criticism. For those suffering, global debates felt distant as their world burned. When the dust settles, the war's legacy will be etched on a generation of children. In Gaza, children have lost parents, limbs, and homes. Their schools and playgrounds are graveyards. The psychological impact is a ticking time bomb, shaping the future for decades. With nearly every school damaged or destroyed, education and hope are lost. Children are left idle in shelters, their potential withering. Thousands now live with life-altering injuries, needing care in a collapsed health system. These children embody the war's brutality. The challenge of supporting them is immense, and the world has failed to protect them. Trauma knows no borders. Israeli children, too, are scarred by violence and fear. Hatred and fear poison the young, making reconciliation seem ever more distant. We are witnessing a generation defined by trauma, a legacy that threatens any hope for peace. Where does that leave us? In a world so often divided by borders, beliefs, and histories, it's natural to feel overwhelmed or powerless. It's easy to look away, to feel the conflict is too distant or complex. We might tell ourselves it's not our problem, or that nothing we do could possibly matter. But to look away is a luxury the people here do not have. For them, the conflict is not a headline. It's daily life, shaping every moment and every hope for the future. We have a moral obligation to bear witness, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Bearing witness means refusing to let suffering become invisible. Understanding doesn't require picking sides, but seeing humanity on all sides. It means recognizing the pain, the resilience, and the dignity of every person affected. Empathy is not a zero-sum game. Compassion for one group doesn't diminish another. In fact, it expands our capacity to care, to connect, and to hope for peace. This is a story about what happens when we stop seeing each other as human. When fear and anger replace understanding, everyone loses. Dehumanization is a poison that can spread anywhere. It seeps into hearts and minds, making peace seem impossible. By listening to stories of Iman, Ghazal, and countless others whose voices are rarely heard, hostage families, we push back against that poison. We remind ourselves that every life is precious, every loss is real. We remember that behind headlines are people who love, dream, and grieve. Their joys and sorrows are not so different from our own. What can we do? Learn, listen, support those saving lives, demand more from leaders, refuse simple, hateful narratives. Even small acts of solidarity matter. Most of all, hold on to our own humanity. Let empathy guide our choices, even when it's difficult. The only hope for this land lies in the radical act of seeing the person on the other side and believing that peace begins with understanding.